Folks, I guess we're going live right now. Unfortunately, our video got cut off again. I'm sorry about that, guys. Our video did get cut off again. We're here live with you this evening with Emergency Management Associates. I'm going to try to stop this video right now, which I just did. This is Ron Tyler with Emergency Management Associates. We're coming to you from the Area Command, 392 miles west of Kitty Hawk Beach, North Carolina. There we go. You have me live here. Again, this is Ron Tyler with the Emergency Management Associates. We're coming to you live from the Area Command, 392 miles west of Kitty Hawk Beach, North Carolina. Guys, this is almost an urgent issue. Okay, this is almost an urgent issue. We talked about this the other day. We're talking about it again today. Yesterday, Friday, we talked about it. Saturday, we talked about it again. This is an urgent issue. Okay? Protesters. I don't know why that happened. I don't know why that happened, but anyway, we're back here with you. I want to tell you what's going on. The first thing I want to do is bring you information from President Trump. This is a statement from President Trump earlier today.
That it could have gotten much worse. And you have an incompetent governor. Just take a look at the train stations that he's building. Like 20 times over budget. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. So I did call him the other night. I said, look, you got to take care of this. Otherwise, I'm sending in the troops. That's what we did.
Are you prepared to invoke the Insurrection Act?
Depends on whether or not there's an insurrection. No, but you have violent people, and we're not going to let them get away with it. I think that you're going to see some very strong law and order. Last night in Los Angeles, we watched it very closely. There was a lot of violence there.
Okay, last night there was a lot of violence. As you saw on that that flap over, that he said we're not going to let him get away with it any longer. Let me give you what Karen Bass said today. Karen Bass said it's okay to protest, but not violent protests. Let you hear it from the
switch gears here really quickly as we're hearing from LA Mayor Karen Bass as anti-ICE protesters clash with law enforcement. Let's listen into this here on Live Now.
About this is about another agenda. It's not about public safety. There's clearly no plan, and there is clearly no policy. I want the people of Los Angeles to know that we stand with all Angelenos, no matter where you were born. The First Amendment right gives you the ability, again, to protest peacefully, but it does not give you the right to be violent, to create chaos, or to vandalize property, and that will not be tolerated. So I call on all Angelenos to continue expressing your right, your anger, your outrage, but to do it peacefully. And I just have to say that all of you were there Friday. Everybody knows what happened Friday. Several workplaces were targeted and raids took place. Now, in the beginning, the administration said they were just looking for dangerous felons, violent people. It's hard to say that that's what they found at a workplace or in a Home Depot parking lot. When this happens, it terrifies people. It sends a sense of fear and chaos in our city. And you well remember a few years ago in the last administration that kids were afraid to go to school. Parents were afraid to go to work. This impacts all of our city. You can't terrify the workforce, and then expect for people to get the jobs done. So if you think about a father that went into a factory and now his family doesn't know where he is, the detainees have not been allowed to speak to legal counsel. That is a marked departure from what has happened in the past. When you think of a mother that might be working in a household, taking care of children on another side of town, that impacts that family as well as her family. And so this is something that I think should not be happening in our city. And I join with the governor in appealing to the administration to rescind the order to federalize the National Guard and allow the National Guard to come back under the control of the governor. So with that, we can open it up for questions. Yes.
We're going to start with Lolita and then we'll go to Chip.
Mayor, these protests that were demonstrations, I should say, did start out peacefully. You've been here since
Right.
in the morning.
Right.
But then they scattered and people were moved
Right.
around. Where is the LAPD in terms of being here to be able to deal with that and maybe stop them before they get over?
Sure. Well, I think that basically they were overrun. But what is happening now is that the freeway is cleared. The California Highway Patrol, as you know, is in charge of the freeways. So they have moved all of the protesters back. They still might be there, but they are beginning to be dispersed. But LAPD is on the perimeter, so LAP is actively involved. You know that there were hundreds of protesters on the freeway and thousands of protesters off the freeway. So there is a joint collaboration going with the CHP, the LAPD, and then frankly the National Guard. But you also know that the National Guard is deployed to protect federal property. So there is a National Guard troops in Westwood at the federal building and also here downtown.
Okay, I want to pause this here. She said the National Guard troops have been brought in to guard federal property. She's full of crap. She's full of crap. President Trump put the National Guard troops in place to help protect the police, ICE, DEA, ATF, and other federal law enforcement agencies, including Homeland Security. Okay? Everybody's there. Everybody's there. These people are spitting on the cops. I personally have seen video of these people going right up into the face of the police, spitting on the police, not just ICE. I've seen them spitting at the law enforcement. I've seen them spitting at LAPD and the sheriff's office. These rioters have no purpose. All they want to do is cause problems. Irregardless of what Karen Bass says, these people are evil people. There's Antifa involved. Remember what Antifa did back in 2020, 2021, 2022? In Washington and Oregon, here in Los Angeles, in Chicago, and in New York, and in Texas. What happened? They protested, they erected a city of their own in Seattle, took over the downtown area and the surrounding area as well. They would not leave. They would not let the police in at all. The police tried to respond to law enforcement matters in Seattle, but the Antifa protesters wouldn't let them in. This is exactly what they're doing here in Los Angeles. She said that the protesters have left the highways. They have not. The protesters are still there. Yes, the California Highway Patrol has brought in their reinforcements that were off duty. They brought all their off-duty personnel in, whether they were on a different shift or not. They brought them in to help clear the freeway. But the protesters are still there, and they're trying to be pushed back off into the LAPD property, into LA City. But the protesters are still on the highway. Now, people were actually trying to move on their own, cars and trucks, and these protesters got in front of the cars and trucks and tried to push back. There was some people out there said, run them over. They deserve it. Run them over. They deserve it. Yes, Lena, they wanted to blame President Trump afterwards, but guess what? President Trump is not the problem. President Trump is not the problem. President Trump was voted in to disperse the illegal aliens in our society, in our country. Over 4 years ago, we had a man named Joe Biden, Joseph Biden. He came in and he instituted an open border. He said he was going to knock down President Trump's fence. He, in fact, did get welders in there and cut open holes of the fence. Michael Kearney just gave us a $20 super chat. Thank you very much, Michael. I'm giving you an EMA sticker on your super chat, and I'm also going to give you a thumbs up for that. Thank you so much. Michael says, stay the course. Thank you, Ron. I appreciate that. I appreciate all of you who donate to our channel, either in super chat or through our Venmo or PayPal, or those people that send us donations to our post office box. We appreciate that so much. We voted for President Trump to clear these illegal people out of our country. Yes, there are gang members, violent gang members. There are terrorists from all 140 countries throughout the world. They're within our borders. Governors such as Newsom of California, governors such as Katie Hobbs in Arizona, the New York governor himself, another governor, or New York governor, I can't even remember her name right now, she needs to go. They have made these cities, including Governor Pritzker in Illinois, made these cities and states sanctuary cities for these illegal aliens to come in and overrun our country. They spent our Social Security money. Okay? Our government, through Biden, took Social Security money from our own seniors. There were over 200,000 illegal aliens taking money out of our Social Security system. We talked about that in, I don't know, at least 10 or 15 times on our programs. They took money. They took SNAP benefits. In one case, one illegal alien had upwards of $50,000+ a year in SNAP benefits and Social Security money. He never worked one day in this country, but he got that money. He was driving a better car than you and I drive, a new car. How did he do that? He had a cell phone given to him by the Biden and Obama administration. How'd that happen? Because they took money. Kay Morava says they spent FEMA money too. You're absolutely right, they did. They took FEMA money that was marked for Hurricane Helene victims and gave it to the illegal aliens. I told you this story of a hotel in New York. $250 million a month was being spent on this hotel to house illegal aliens. Incredible. Incredible. That's been stopped, hopefully permanently. However, we can't prove it. We can't prove that it's been stopped. Why? Because our Republican rhinos and our Democrats are not letting us codify the DOGE cuts, the Department of Government Efficiency cuts. They're not letting us codify them into law. So the government's going to be able to spend that money anyway. But President Trump was elected to get these people out of our country, and that's all he is doing. He's using the present agencies in place, the same people that were hired to do this job before. And yet, people like Karen Bass, Governor Hochul in New York, Katie Hobbs in Arizona, Governor Pritzker in Illinois, and others, spending money hand over fist to keep these illegal aliens in our country. And in fact, Governor Pritzker, Kathy Hochul from New York, and even Katie Hobbs have said, and also Governor Idiot Newsom in California have said that they're going to protect these illegal aliens from Customs Border Protection. Really? Karen Bass here is saying that they are going to allow these people to be here.
Mayor Bass, have you reached out directly to the federal government, or is this you doing so right now with
with the media here? Have you tried to reach?
No, my disappointment is I've been talking to the federal government for days. I was hoping to prevent this situation from happening. I was trying to encourage the administration that if they deployed the National Guard in Los Angeles, it would create a sense of chaos. It's the last thing our city needs. Our city is still trying to recover from the wildfires. And you just think about how so many people were impacted by that. And that's an example of where the administration was helpful. And to go from that situation to where we are now is just really tragic. And I think it's so unfortunate. It's the last thing Los Angeles needs.
When you say you've reached out to federal government, have you reached to President Trump?
No, I did not reach out to President Trump directly. I spoke to his chief of staff. I talked to Tom Holman. I talked to the U.S. Attorney. So I've talked to several members of the administration.
Next question, Matthew.
Yeah, I know you've been watching this protest. First off, what do you see when you're watching this? And I know that you've mentioned being worried about the safety of the protesters, but are you also worried about members of law enforcement in the middle of this?
Well, I'm worried about everybody. I'm worried about members of law enforcement. I'm worried about the safety of the people who are peacefully protesting. I'm worried about
Peacefully protesting, really? Some of these protesters have been paid. Some of these protesters have also been given munitions, such as pepper spray and grenades, throwing the grenades at police. Yes, they have. And then when the police have propelled grenades, pepper spray grenades over into the riot crowds, these riot crowds have picked them up and thrown them back at the police. Incredible. Incredible. There are tens of thousands of people protesting in Los Angeles tonight. They're ongoing. You can see here in the background picture of Karen Bass's press conference. There are thousands of people there. The news media is reporting tens of thousands of people there. Spitting at cops. Throwing Molotov cocktails at cops. I saw that earlier this afternoon. That's why I'm on the air right now. And Karen Bass says that putting in the National Guard is needless. That's going to make things worse. She's so wrong. Karen Bass doesn't have the God-given sense at all. During and after the LA fires, attorneys were asking for Karen Bass to resign. She's still there. As I've said before, even last night, her administration and the fire department have been responsible for spending all kinds of money they shouldn't have spent. They're still doing it. Karen Bass is a liberal mayor. As a result, the police chief, McDonald, is telling the LA police not to assist ICE, not to have anything to do with Customs Border Protection or ICE at all, not to help them round up anybody or help protect ICE or Customs Border Protection. Help them nothing. The sheriff, I showed you the video last night, what Sheriff Luna's done. Nothing. But today, LAPD under Police Chief McDonald have issued a citywide tactical alert, meaning all available LAPD personnel are on duty. Detectives there are now in uniform. This is like a citywide alert. Sheriff's deputies have also been brought in. SWAT teams have also been brought in. Now we have National Guard troops, 2,000 National Guard troops, and now Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, is telling Mayor Bass and everyone else that he is about to deploy the Marines on the streets of Los Angeles. Between the National Guard Army troops and the Marine Corps, they can take back the city of LA. What is going on is, as Michael Kearney says in the chat, it's disgusting behavior. Totally disgusting behavior. And this mayor right here needs to go away. Mayor Bass needs to go away. She needs to be arrested. Anybody that is allowing this behavior to happen, and she's saying peaceful protest. This is anything but peaceful protest. She's telling people to protest peacefully. It's not. She's not doing a darn thing. She didn't do anything for the people in LA during or after the fires, and she's still not doing it today. She doesn't have their best feelings and ideas in mind. She only has her liberal ideas. That's all. Karen Bass is a joke. Let me give you pertinent information right now. Live from CBS KCAL in Los Angeles. This is important. Watch this.
Are those motor officers that you were talking about who have now lined themselves up there blocking that street. It was quite the image
Thanks,
to see
Michael
that mountain
Kearney.
unit just
Michael
be
just
able
gave
to
us 5
push
EMA
that crowd
memberships.
back. That's especially what they're used for.
Group here.
The horses
Anybody
run rather
that received
quickly,
a
and when
membership,
they do,
please thank
for the
Michael
most
Kearney for
part,
that.
people will
Thanks,
move.
Michael. God
They
bless
will
you.
not try to put themselves in danger. So that was quite an image. You really did see the mountain unit at work there, and they were able to quickly move those people back, get them to stop blocking the street. And you can see now they're on one side of the street, there's cars passing, and people are on the other side.
And taking a look at things right now, as we'll check back in with Lauren a little bit later on, trying to get a handle on what we're looking at here.
We're looking at a Grand Park there,
Right.
Lord
Yeah.
Molina Grand Park, and I believe that's where a lot of those chairs came
Right.
from.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
the pink chairs that you normally see there. We saw some people try to use them as a way to block the streets and you know, possibly protect themselves. But there's not too many people out here from where we can see. But Lori was mentioning where she is, closer to Aveyah Street.
Which is right here.
Yeah, there are. There's a much larger group. I know we have Lori that we can get in touch with here. Lori, are you still seeing a large group out there? We're seeing the fireworks.
Yeah, there's still a substantial crowd out here, and we're hearing a lot more bangs and explosives in just the last few minutes. Not sure what's precipitating that. The crowd is chanting once again. They are gathering once again, again facing off with this significant force of law enforcement that continues to guard and protect the on-ramp to the 101 South lanes. 101 northbound is open, but 101 South remains closed. Across the way, of course, just that dystopian scene of the Waymos on fire, billowing smoke behind this crowd of protesters. Again, in my opinion, people far too close to that. I will say on the other overpass just down the way here, maybe about 5 minutes ago, we saw 4 or 5 fire trucks heading towards Chinatown, and I thought, oh, they must be going across and then they're going to swing around and get over to those Waymos. We have not seen them get here yet, but hopefully that is where they're headed. It's probably just tough getting over here because of the number of people who continue to take over the streets in this area, but hopefully they are headed in that direction. Again, the chanting has just again started up again. People starting to gather in front of the law enforcement that is here. And a lot of people now setting off fireworks every few seconds, which is just adding to kind of the chaotic situation out here. But other than that, as you said, you know, thankfully, we have not seen people getting hurt. We have not seen any physical clashing yet at this point, which is always good in these kinds of situations because that's what you're worried about as tempers and frustrations and emotions rise. You just never know what's going to happen. And while people here where we are certainly amped up, we have not seen any physical confrontations at this point, which is always good to know. But we are keeping an eye on this situation, wanting to make sure that we know what's going on here and staying alert, of course, from our vantage point. Guys, back to you.
Lori,
Okay, right before we go back to the studio there, to the news anchors here at KCL. Mayor Bass isn't doing anything. Somebody in the chat just already put up that it is much to do about nothing. It is about something. It's about illegal activity. It's about illegal activity, trying to keep the illegals in our country out in the country. We elected the president to get them out, and he's doing the right thing. And Mayor Bass is dividing law enforcement. As I said last night, I want to tell you again, as a federal police officer, I took an oath. I took an oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Every law enforcement officer, it doesn't matter whether it's a municipal department, city, state, county, whatever it is, everybody took the same oath. But Karen Bass has already told Chief McDonald and Sheriff Luna that their people cannot assist ICE. ICE, Immigration Customs Enforcement, Customs Border Protection, Drug Enforcement Agency, Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms as well are all law enforcement. We all took the same oath. I took the same oath back in 1985. I'm telling you guys, Karen Bass and Governor Newsom are making sure that law enforcement is not going to protect anybody. They're saying law enforcement there is to protect the citizens, yes, but they're also to protect other cops. Everybody protecting everybody else. And we can't do that when we have mayors and governors working against us. We need to rid these illegals. And yes, they're illegals. At this point in time, there are also gang members here. There are terrorists in our country. Some of the illegals are not gang members. However, they still came across the border illegally. Under the United States Code 8, Section 1325, that makes illegal border crossing a violation of federal law. They knew darn well when they crossed into this country that they were breaking federal law, and our president allowed it. Our president at the time allowed it. Over 20 million illegals came into this country. Some of them taking jobs. Others are living off our government still. And President Trump is taking the money away. How are they going to live when President Trump is taking that money away? They had no business taking our money in the beginning. It should never have been given to them. Now President Trump has stopped that money flow. These people don't belong here, number one. Number two, they're going to try to fight to gain some kind of money or steal what they need. That's the next thing. They're going to take what they need, and I saw that earlier today. There were rioters breaking into a house in Paramount City, California, in Los Angeles, breaking into a well-to-do house and taking out the safe from the house. They pulled out the safe in that house, and threw it into the back of a Kia, a Japanese car, or a Korean car, and drove away. Guys, it's got to stop. It has to stop. Michael Kearney has also given away another 5 memberships, month-long memberships to the EMA family. On Tuesday, I'm going to attempt another members-only meeting. So all of you who just got to be members of this organization, please be here on Tuesday morning when I go live with a members-only meeting. We'd appreciate you being here. Between now and then, we're going to be back on the air every day, maybe twice a day, in regards to what's happening here and also what's happening with our earthquakes and volcanoes around the world. We're going to do that. Let's take it back to KCAL in Los Angeles.
Thank you. And yeah, certainly seeing it from your point of view down there, you can get a good sense of just how many people there are and what a large number it is. And then you take a look at this.
Police cars and fire trucks on fire. Police cars and fire trucks on fire. Earlier, there was a white police vehicle on fire in the middle of an intersection. They had to bring in fire trucks being escorted by the police to put out the fire because gang members were stoking the fire. They actually lifted the hood of a vehicle. There was someone with a red gas container pouring gas on the engine. Then someone took a match and threw it on the gas on top of the engine, and it blew up. One of the gang members that were partially responsible for doing it got burned. The explosion of the gas being set on fire hit him in the face. He got his comeuppance, didn't he? This is happening. You see the vehicle still on fire here.
Overhead from SkyCal, and that first vehicle with the smallest amount of flames, that was the first one, I believe, that we saw burning, and then the rest of them started picking up right on after that and seeing a number of explosions and elsewhere. Yeah, I mean, I'm glad Lori brought up the point about the fire engines and how we saw them come through. I wonder just how long, presuming that they are coming to that direction, how long it's going to take, but it is certainly a complicated factor with all the roads blocked off, law enforcement, and of course, a number of protesters all over the area.
And LAPD once again reminding people how dangerous it is that these electric vehicles are burning, telling people stay out of that area at Los Angeles Street, north of Arcadia, south of Alameda. Burning lithium-ion batteries release toxic gases. We've been saying this, we know that, but LAPD putting out that it includes hydrogen fluoride, which poses risks to responders and those nearby. So they want people to avoid this area. That's something we mentioned rather quickly because the lithium-ion batteries there, once they burn, they can burn for a long time, and it does pose a health risk to many people. So all the people.
Okay, somebody says these are not police cars. These here are not. These are electric vehicles. But earlier there was a police vehicle in an intersection that was set on fire. And they were able to maneuver in 2 fire trucks under escort of the police. Because before that, the gangs that set the police car on fire were not letting the fire department in. So the police moved in to protect the firefighters, and the firefighters moved in to put out the fire. But here in this case, firefighters have not been able to get in here.
People in that area.
And someone else here, C says, have there been any arrests there? Yes, there have been arrests.
That is a very toxic situation right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, it's not going to tie down right in the next few minutes or so. It's just why Lori brought up the point that it seemed odd so many people would still be hanging around that area and being so close to not just one but multiple burning vehicles, given the danger that it is that is present. And keeping an eye on here in downtown LA in the situation, nothing. Okay, I thought I saw something there for a second, but no. Otherwise, you just see the crowds of people.
How much should good car insurance cost you?
Just a second.
I know Lauren's still out there. We're taking a look at Lauren's shot on the right. You have what looks like a Metro bus that was also tagged there. I believe they're trying to make a U-turn here. Someone trying to help this Metro bus out to get out of the way.
Well, and hopefully they do that because we've seen that go south
quickly
Yeah,
too
I mean,
in protests.
we've seen it, but we saw a bus get tagged just last night and get kicked and otherwise targeted by a group of people just last night. So yeah, your thoughts certainly go in that direction right away. But to see it just having to take a U-turn and get out of there, hopefully safely, is a good sign.
Although someone tagged it, there are also people in that area that are helping to get it to reverse and go the other direction at this point. Although you wonder. I know you want to follow your route and whatnot, but it's been a chaotic situation for a couple hours now. We even heard that the Metro Tokyo station was shut down by LAPD just to avoid, any situation on the Metro line.
Well, and those buses are very dangerous. We've seen in past protests where buses get set on fire, and those are compressed natural gas. So that is also a very, very dangerous thing to have be set on fire. The right side of your screen are those live pictures you see at Aliso Street there, where LAPD has formed a skirmish line. You've got those officers wearing shields. They've got their less than lethal munitions, and now still trying to deal with this crowd, which, as we've talked about, has thinned out. And it does appear that we are kind of left with the non-peaceful version of this protest. You see some people standing there still with flags and hats. So there are still people that are just standing around, but I think the majority of the people that were trying to do this the right way have probably gone home. You see the sign of the federal courthouse there is totally tagged as well.
Yeah, otherwise, you start to try and read the body language of people, and at least just based off of officers, right? And just based on this one on the right side of your screen, it seems just, again, relatively speaking, a touch more relaxed compared to what we've seen even just in the last couple of hours.
But
and then, of course, there's going on there.
Situation again pop up, Mike, that we saw earlier, where people are blocking the street. They've taken tables, chairs, street signs, and once again blocking the roadway. And this, a few minutes ago, actually prompted LAPD to declare an unlawful assembly or declare a dispersal order, I should say, and begin using that less than lethal munition and quickly moving people out of there. But we're seeing the same situation pop up once again.
Yeah, and I would assume that LAPD is going to move on those guys again. And what they're going to want to do is get them away from that area where they can continue to grab those chairs and those tables. And right now, they're still right in that spot. They're still right there. This time, though, there are significantly more people. Certainly not as many as we've seen, but there are definitely more people behind that little makeshift line than there were earlier when it was down the street. So they've kind of combined some of this area here. I will say, though, a lot, when we look at the totality of the people that are here, it is a lot less than it was when we first came on the air, around 3:30, 4 o'clock, when there were probably thousands of people down there. It does seem like you're starting to kind of boil it down to the group right here in front of City Hall, and then the group over on Aliso where Lori Perez is.
And you have...
Okay. I also want to thank Michael Kearney again, who's gifted another 5 memberships to EMA here on YouTube. Gifted Bellator, Sinez, Vicky Vandenberg, Owens River House, Montessa Wickenhagen, Sitting Bear, and Tinny Pearl. Thank you for that. Those of you that have been gifted memberships, please thank Michael Kearney for that. Now I'm going to go back here to KCAL. I'm going to go back to KCAL in just a second here. But what I want you to know is they are trying to make it so this cannot continue. They're trying to move these people on. They're doing their best to move people on. What we're going to soon see as darkness descends on Los Angeles, and right now it's just after 7:30 p.m. Darkness is going to descend on Los Angeles in the next couple hours. We're going to see more and more people, more violence, because it's going to be dark. It's going to be very dark. And then all heck is going to break loose again, just like it did last night.
God, I mean, it's just...
It got bigger.
Hold on a second.
But for lack of a better word, determined group of people to just decide, yes, we're going to cause as much mayhem as possible. Let's get to Lori Perez in downtown LA. Lori, what are you seeing from your vantage point?
So we are actually staying, thankfully, behind the fence on this overpass, kind of watching what you guys have been watching, but from on the ground here, watching those officers under the overpass just getting pummeled by whatever people can throw over the side. We've seen pieces of concrete. We've seen several scooters, many water bottles, glass, plastic, etc. And they're just kind of trapped underneath there while the crowd above, which is, as you said, not a very significant crowd, just attacks them from above. I would say probably less than a quarter of the people that were here when we first arrived remain, but they seem to be doing a lot of damage. They seem to be confronting these officers. Ooh, something else really big just dropped down on the cars right there. They are confronting the officers in a much more aggressive, much more violent way than we have seen for much of the day. And that's a bad situation. And the officers are responding. They are throwing those smoke bombs up, launching them onto the overpass, trying to disperse the crowd, trying to get those people out of there. It seems to be working to some extent, but there is still a crowd up above and a crowd of people who want to stir up trouble and continue to keep those officers kind of trapped under that overpass. We did just moments ago see two cars drive away quickly, make their way out of there. And then now,
look at those protesters move as that CNCS and tear gas moves into the crowd. They don't want to get tear gas. But before that, they were willing to do whatever they wanted to do.
Something seems to be happening.
Yeah,
so do you see all those people running?
Yeah, Lori, we're seeing a number of people running, and then we saw one of those vehicles just under the overpass fire,
it looked like a
coming
flame,
out from the front.
A paper that they lit up and threw over right on top of the CHP car.
Oh. So two things. Last time we saw CHP using smoke bombs, this clearly was tear gas.
Yeah.
And you'll notice that they didn't throw it up at the crowd. They threw it down the freeway so that the wind would pick up the tear gas and blow it up, preventing the protesters from them throwing back at them. A second thing that I want to point out, and Dean on our digital desk noticed this, they're on social media, they're using hammers. So they brought hammers to break up the concrete to then throw it down on the CHP office.
I see.
Okay. Two really significant observations there, Mike, because you can tell the way that that tear gas dispersed the crowd so quickly. Yeah. You know, earlier we saw CHP using those smoke grenades, and the crowd didn't flinch.
No.
It made it maybe
threw it
hard
back
to
even
see.
at times, yeah.
Yeah, they were volleying back and forth between CHP and the crowd, but it did not have the effect to really disperse the crowd.
Right.
In this case, quickly you saw them go. And take a look, you're seeing some CHP vehicles
just come on
able
through.
to move out of there, and I think that's what they want to do, get as many of those vehicles out. But that one, the one you see with all the stuff on.
Guys, look at the protesters on the side of the freeway. That's the 101 freeway. And Karen Bass was saying that the protesters have been taken off the highway. They're still there. Only one lane of the freeway is open.
On top, the one that had the airbags deploy already, that's going to have to get towed out of there.
And here comes an officer just running down. Possibly trying to get to their vehicle there just as quick as possible. Obviously moving with significant pace and by himself too. That's the other thing.
Yeah, I think he's trying to get maybe to this vehicle here, and if he's able to get there, he can just drive right on out.
Yeah, this is where having there's more smoke there, and he's still running with a number just behind. This is where having the overpass sort of helps a little bit, is that there is that natural barrier, but in direct line, and we've saw this before, even before the cars started getting hit with rocks and scooters and traffic signs, where there was a back and forth between officers and people throwing water bottles and other things down toward them. This person's
going to grab a piece of concrete once again. It looks like too. In their hands, right? That's another piece.
And someone else coming too.
2 more pieces of concrete and just going to throw it down. And this is what we were talking to Janice Hahn about.
Yes.
Is that, our local law enforcement are now taking the brunt of these agitators, as we can call these people.
Yes.
And they're the ones having to deal with all of the escalation.
Right.
And we've asked her, how do we de-escalate the situation? And she said, well, we're calling on the federal government to, first and foremost, pull off the National
firework
Guard.
going off, yeah.
Yeah, and then stop the ICE enforcement.
Yeah.
Let the city take a moment to heal itself.
And that's where it seems like the trouble might lie, because despite our repeated questions toward Supervisor Hahn, Mayor Bass, when you hear, and this is going back to our conversation with the U.S. Attorney Bill Escalation, and then pairing that with the statements from President Trump, from Secretary Noem, and from other Trump administration officials, it seems like both sides are at an impasse there, where one is calling for the retreat and step back, and the other is determined to, no, we are going to operate as we see fit, because we believe that this is a serious issue that needs taken care of, and that's where we're at right now.
This is, what I promised the voters who voted me into office.
Well, and the two sides aren't even communicating. I mean, we spoke with Supervisor Hahn. She herself has not had any communication with the federal government at all. So it's, how do you even begin to have those, I don't call them negotiations, but those conversations about how to go about this if you don't even talk to the other side?
Yeah, Mayor.
Okay, that's exactly right. The city's not talking with the feds because they don't want to. The city only wants their way, period. Now, Tinny Pearls asked the question, isn't this use of deadly weapons by throwing all these concrete pieces, scooters and such? Yes, that is assault with a deadly weapon. As they damage police cars, it's going to be damage to government property, damage to police vehicles. If one of the police officers gets hurt, it's assault with a deadly weapon on a police officer. Whether it's a piece of rock, a piece of ice, whether it is a scooter, whatever is being thrown. When I was a police officer, I was spit at. As you remember, during that time period, people's saliva was filled with HIV. And at the time, we were told by our superiors not to allow that to happen. We put a mask over their faces. We put a breathable mask over their faces, a hood over their heads, so they could not spit at us. Because if they spit at us, our uniforms were trash. If it got on our flesh, then we had to take HIV tests to make sure we didn't have HIV. Yes, there were some officers that got HIV from spit, bodily fluids. This is a dangerous thing as well. Now, we don't know right now what's going on with some of these protesters. Yes, they may have tuberculosis. They may have other diseases as well. They're spitting in the face of law enforcement. One is illegal. It's assault with a weapon, bodily fluids, throwing punches, hitting the cops, striking the cops any way they can. And the cops not doing anything about it, I don't think that's going to happen. You hurt a cop in any way, shape, or form, you attack a cop in any way, shape, or form, you're going to go to jail. And that's what these cops are doing. They're taking punches. They're taking damage to their vehicles. These are state vehicles. These vehicles here by that overpass are California Highway Patrol. It's not federal vehicles. These people don't care whether it's federal or state or city. They're here to protest whatever they want to do. They're going to do whatever they want to do. It's no longer about the federal government. It basically has nothing to do with it. They're going to protest any way they want to do.
Bass telling us she did speak to several people at the White House, but not the president himself. And take a look, you can see a CHP officer did get into this one vehicle that has possibly the most damage, right? And they're going to try to move it, but it's going to be interesting if this vehicle is even able to get out of here or move with the
airbag.
Yeah, you know,
they had to try to move the airbag out of the way just to get into the driver's seat.
They tried, but at this point, probably unsuccessful. You know, another officer is going to try there as well.
And you see more
people continue to throw these large, heavy concrete rocks down at officers. There you see another one. Another concrete slab.
Oh,
trying to directly hit that officer.
hit the
Trying
officer.
to directly hit that officer.
You saw how effective that tear gas was, though. I mean, that cleared the crowd
to the
fast.
point where only the at least one person we saw come back had a gas mask of their own to try and just sift through all that gas and then throw some more rocks and everything else down below. But that one got really close to hitting the officer who was trying to get in and out of that vehicle.
It is interesting, too, because you wonder, CHP certainly would have communication with LAPD. You would think that LAPD would come help them out on top of the bridge while these officers are clearly in a position of distress here as these people are throwing these rocks and scooters and signs and everything they can at them. So it's interesting that LAPD hasn't come in. Certainly they have their hands full in other parts of downtown, but it is an interesting kind of point here. Also, just I want to make a quick housekeeping note. We are starting to deal with the marine layer here, so we may lose SkyCal. Not terribly soon, I don't think, but it is becoming a bit of an issue up there.
Okay, that's always a good note for our viewers, as we have been on since about 4 p.m. now, monitoring this situation for you happening in downtown Los Angeles. You could see we are near the 101 where CHP vehicles have been pelted with, concrete objects, concrete rocks, several scooters, electric scooters, even a parking sign. Someone was able to pick up a parking sign and throw it over onto that CHP car there.
No, there's fireworks going off right there. On that note really quickly, because we've been talking about the 101 throughout the afternoon, LAPD Central Division 10 minutes ago saying because of demonstrators throwing objects onto the southbound lanes of the 101 and damaging multiple vehicles, as we've been showing you live here, the 101 southbound is going to remain closed until further notice. That obviously not a surprise to us, but given everything that's going on down there, having to eventually move and perhaps tow these cars out of the way, then clean it up. And Mike, you pointed out Caltrans has to, check structural integrity and everything else. It might be a while before that opens back up.
Yeah, it would be a significant amount of time. I mean, they like you just mentioned, Gio, they may want Caltrans to come look at the integrity of the roadway, though it looks like most of the pieces of concrete were coming from obviously from the bridge above. But yeah, I mean, all these cars are going to have to get towed. Then the freeway is going to have to get cleaned up, and none of that is going to happen until things like this stop happening, which is people. I think he's got a leaf blower. That's an interesting choice, but. And look, you see how that cop, they keep trying to get into that car. And, good point. John, our photographer in SkyCal, mentioned that they used the leaf blower to blow away the tear gas. Yeah. So you look at things like this and you have to say these are professional people.
They're bringing in hammers to break up that away. Concrete. Yeah. They have leaf blowers.
To push away the tear gas.
To push away the tear gas. Some of them actually have the gas mask.
Right. And that's when you start to say, these are not people here protesting the issue of immigration enforcement. They're here to cause problems and here to cause damage.
They're taking advantage of the situation there. Is this CHP vehicle smoking, or is that another?
I think it's a tear gas canister.
Okay.
Yeah,
let's see here.
They got an umbrella up there as they're hammering away, and they put that umbrella up so that when the CHP shoots pepper balls at them, it doesn't hit them.
And there's the leaf blower. You see it right over the edge, right next to the exit sign. Yep. I mean, it's just wow. I mean, that goes to your point, Leslie, about how this was thought out, to that degree.
And this is a very small group.
Yeah.
We say we are not characterizing this entire group of protesters that started early this morning that were protesting. They were protesting the issue of immigration enforcement here in our city. This right here, this is a small group of people who came here for what seems like violence. And Mike, you're pointing out someone was trying to light that cardboard on fire.
Yeah, so if you look, and John's doubling in right next to the guy in the blue, they brought some cardboard over, and they were trying to light it on fire. And it looks like, he's got like some bush, a brush
kindling,
in his hand. Kindling,
there you go. There's the lighter.
And he's trying to light it. So they're going to light the cardboard, and then try to throw it on top of the CHP car to get that set on fire. Look at how many phones are out there, too. And if for a second they don't think that CHP is going to be scouring social media
They've already
charge these people.
Yes, I mean the FBI has posted the gentleman earlier who was on top of the Waymo that came with a skateboard.
Right.
He was wearing a mask, but they've already found photos
Right.
of these people, and what they're saying is, yeah, we will, if not arrest you today, we will eventually arrest you, and we've seen that happen.
Yeah. Now I can't tell why everyone's running. I don't know if the tear gas is getting to them, but
Yeah, everyone's,
Oh, looks like another firework.
More fireworks. And another.
they're really trying to work on that cardboard, it looks like, to catch that on fire.
Yeah.
I think he's even using the leaf blower to kind of fan it. And it just gets to this point where we've got this is not a large group of people compared to what we were dealing with earlier, but look how much chaos and damage this small number of people is able to do here. And partially for the fact that they are on like different levels of where the CHP is. I mean, those officers, it's not like they can just push them out. There's nobody up there to push them out. It's just they just continuously have to take this beating from these people that are up on the bridge.
Yeah.
Let's get back to our Lori Perez, who's in downtown LA. She was giving us a look at this from the ground. Lori, it sounds like you moved vantage points. What are you seeing now?
Yeah, we just got a little bit closer to where the action is happening. And as you all have been saying, I mean, it's really remarkable to kind of watch this play out because it is a really small group of people who are causing all of this chaos. Maybe, 20 guys over on the overpass across from us, and they are the ones who are continuing to engage with the law enforcement that is huddled under the overpass. They have thrown any number of items, as you guys have been watching and noting, but they are really continuing to wreak a lot of havoc and to cause a lot of trouble here, which is not a good situation. When you see those people running, that's because law enforcement is responding by deploying tear gas, and that's when the crowd really runs and disperses. And we've even felt the effects of that as far away as we are, as the wind has brought it over here. But this group of people, this group of agitators, as you called them, really creating a lot of tension and frustration for also some of the other protesters who are continuing to try and stay on point, at least over where we are. They continue to stand in front of the road, on the road, continuing to chant, continuing to hold up their signs and kind of keep their mission of being out here a front of mind instead of some of this other stuff that we're watching play out down below. So again, a lot of pockets of action throughout downtown Los Angeles. Again, Leslie, go ahead.
Sorry, we want to get to Mike.
Yeah.
You just noticed they tried to light one of those CHP cars on fire.
Yeah, so CHP, and John, if you can zoom in on that car right there for me. So they had been using that kindling. They put it, they threw it down onto the CHP car, and then they used the cardboard to throw it on top of it. And those CHP units underneath of the bridge had a fire extinguisher, and one of them even pulled out a can of pepper spray and started pepper spraying the fire to put the flames out. So they clearly saw that coming, and were able to use that fire extinguisher to get that out. You see it right on top. John, if you can show us that Tahoe there that was that they tried to light on fire, you see the remnants of the fire extinguisher, the dry chem on top of the car there, and luckily it was not able to catch fire.
Someone else just tried to drop another piece of kindling. I saw them light it up with a lighter and just drop it down moments ago, and doesn't seem to have worked. But there's another piece of cardboard going down there. I mean, my goodness, you even just see it just looking at the scooters. I mean, the number of Lime scooters and others just littering the ground there, along with all of these rocks and concrete that were chipped away with hammers, is quite the sight to see.
Oh yeah. And it's relentless almost. I mean, there is the same thing when we talk about the Waymos. It's vandalism for the sake of vandalism. And what is the goal here? I mean, are they that intent on trying to light these cars on fire that they're just going to keep at it until that happens, or what's
and then what?
The goal? Right. I mean, it doesn't seem like there is one, but what's the plan here with these guys?
What was really.
Kathy Marshall's asking, what is a CHP unit? A CHP unit is a California Highway Patrol car. California Highway Patrol car. They call it a unit because that's what we cops call our police car. It's a unit.
difficult to see was the fact that at one point they just
Somebody's
started
hurt right there.
picking up. Someone's hurt, you said?
Yeah, look at that on the ground. John, stay on that shot right there. They're crowding around her, or I assume it's a her because I see the long hair. But you see her, you see they're laying on the ground right there. I don't know how that happened, but I just noticed that.
And this is following at least one other demonstrator that we saw that was hurt. It looked like the other person we saw had injuries to their head several hours ago. Maybe an hour ago, we saw that person had injuries to their head. They were still able to speak with the people that were helping them, including LAPD officers that were also helping them. But you can see it does look like someone's down there as people continue to throw stuff at officers down below on the 101 southbound lanes.
That are still closed, by the way, worth repeating that, and they're going to be closed likely for a long time. You see some more smoke, and there's another round there with more rocks and items being thrown down. And just keep getting after this vehicle, which CHP has tried to move unsuccessfully. I mean, you see the airbag there, whether or not that was the sole reason or one of many reasons, more than likely one of many, as to why you can't get that vehicle out of the way. Not to mention the fact that they were putting themselves potentially in harm's way by even approaching the vehicle to begin with, because you notice it is outside of, it is out from underneath the overpass, and there were a couple close calls with protesters throwing concrete and other items directly at officers, and a couple times narrowly missing their heads in other spots.
And John pointing out, too, there is a lot bigger crowd that is kind of formed along the overpass and along the side of the freeway. I also just have to remark on what a weird and strange sight it must be for the drivers on the northbound side of the 101 to just be, transiting through here and seeing all of this chaos. Like, it has just got to be such a surreal feeling to be just, not involved in this, but right in the middle of it at the same time.
And the contrast that the protesters, they're set on destroying those CHP vehicles, but you get to the northbound lanes completely clear of any of that debris.
Go ahead, Jill.
No, I was going to say, thankfully, exactly.
Yeah.
It took the words right out of my mouth, where we were worried there for a hot second about some of that debris and other items getting into the northbound lanes because, that's a larger fire. There's the cardboard.
Of cardboard on fire, and here's the thing: it has to travel down there, and once it does, CHP may try to once again. Let's see if they try to put this out here.
You see a couple feet there in the frame.
See if that just goes anywhere. I mean, that's.
Yeah, that might just.
There it is, right there.
The fire extinguisher. And they're able to put it out rather quickly.
Yeah, and I think as long as it's just cardboard that keeps going down there, they're probably not going to get what they're hoping for, which is good. There's another firework that's going off, but it's just,
I was going to say, to finish the earlier thought about the fact that, people coming northbound on the 101, seeing that, especially considering that both the northbound lanes and the southbound lanes were closed just about 3 hours ago or so when we initially jumped on air. And then, to see this coming down and notice the chaos that's going just off to your side must be quite stark and even frightening in many cases, because why wouldn't it be?
And I am a little surprised that they haven't closed the northbound side. I mean, I know that they want to make sure, that traffic is getting through, but I am a little surprised that they... there's another firework on the other side. I am a little surprised they're allowing traffic to come through. But on the same token, the protesters seem to be leaving that side alone. You don't see anybody throwing anything at the passing cars on the northbound side. They're just really, really focused on the CHP vehicles.
Yeah, and you mentioned the National Guard vehicles just staged just right on the other side. Not sure if these protesters can actually see because they are raised above, but hasn't deterred.
Okay, the CHP are doing their best to try to defend their vehicles. As you saw in the KCAL helicopter view, the National Guard has stationed their vehicles above on a parking garage. These protesters have not probably figured that out. But the National Guard soldiers are also going to protect what they have. So if those protesters go after the National Guard vehicles, they're going to have another thing coming. They're going to protect their equipment. And they're going to use deadly force. Now, someone just asked us about the Marines. Someone just asked us about the Marines and how far away they are. The Marines would be coming from Camp Pendleton, which is North San Diego County. It's about an hour and a half, depending on traffic. But they can airlift these soldiers into Los Angeles. And that might be what has got to happen. The Marine Corps can put their airplanes in force and ferry soldiers, Marine Corps, over to LAX or any of the other local airports in that area. Then all they have to do is get in their vehicles and then travel to the scene. And as you can see, there's heavy traffic. It might take them a minute to get there. It's going to take at least 2 hours to get in there to Los Angeles. It would not surprise me that the Marine Corps is already staged somewhere in Los Angeles because they're planning on this. Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, has planned it. Okay? And right now, the National Guard troops are under not civilian command. Let me tell you something. What has to happen when a disaster happens in any city? The mayor or the county has to call the governor to get permission to have the National Guard troops in that area. That did not happen here. Mayor Bass wouldn't call the National Guard. And Dipstick Newscomb, the governor of California, was not going to allow the National Guard troops to come here to Los Angeles. What happened? The police, the DEA, the FBI, the CBP, Immigration Customs Enforcement, they're the ones that told Secretary Noem, Homeland Security Department Chief, they told them they needed help. The Homeland Security's people, Secretary Noem, and then the border czar, Tom Homan, said his people needed help. They told President Trump they needed help, and President Trump is the one that ordered the National Guard into Los Angeles into force. And as a result, the National Guard is not under the command of Governor Newsom or under even the auspices of Mayor Bass. The National Guard is under NORTHCOM, North American Command, Military Command. Military Command. The National Guard Command in California has no jurisdiction. However, they are military. They are Army generals. They're being ordered by North American Command, Army, to be there and take whatever measures they need to do to bring control over this unruly crowd. And that's ultimately what's going to happen. And like I said, I believe in my heart of hearts that what is going to happen, we are going to see the Marine Corps here as well. We are going to see the National Guard troops take over here. It's a matter of time. It's literally the amount of time it's going to take for them to be in here. It's going to happen. Now, it might be tonight, it might be tomorrow, but it's going to happen. We're not going to see our military. We're not going to see our police, federal or state or municipal, in Los Angeles, meaning LAPD, LA Sheriff's Office, take any more crap from these protesters. And they're not just going after the feds. They're going after the CHP, the state police. They're going after the Sheriff's Office. They're going after LAPD. At some point in time, it's going to stop. I appreciate Renee Seppi here putting up information about the thunderstorms and tornado watches. Earlier, there was a small craft advisory off the coast of North Carolina and Virginia. That's because a great big huge thunderstorm was off the coast of North Carolina and southern Virginia. A big enough thunderstorm that was spouting water spouts over the ocean. Water spouts. Water spouts can turn into tornadoes over land. Water spouts over the water can cause a lot of damage to boats and ships out there. Thus, they issued a small craft advisory telling everybody to be aware of what's going on with the weather. Debris says, aren't the Marines in San Diego? Yes, they are. They're at Camp Pendleton in North San Diego County. I've been to Camp Pendleton myself up in Oceanside. That's the north side of San Diego County. Now, I believe that Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, has already moved the Marine Corps in. They're just waiting for orders to descend, to come in full force, and they will. Ultimately, they will take the streets back. Okay? They will take the streets back. These are all good questions. Do you have any more questions for me? Al Sanchez says they're going to drag this circus out for a while. Yes, they're going to. Until there is major force to take the city back. Then Mayor Bass is going to have a story to tell. Oh, why did they do that? They hurt people. They take people out of their homes. They take people away from their jobs. All these poor people. They're not poor people. Sorry about that. I don't agree. I don't agree. These people, like I said, came across our border illegally. This isn't just about the other people that are here illegally. This is about the illegal people. And I'm sorry if they were they're having their jobs taken away as they are arrested. They shouldn't have been here in the beginning. Okay? Renee Steffi's asking, is martial law going to be declared nationwide because of these other protests? Martial law could be declared in New York. There's a huge protest going on in New York. I have not heard about Chicago, but if it happens there, yes, it could happen. They could declare martial law in various cities to take over the city, law enforcement. Now, since these are military personnel under Northcom, they cannot make arrests. Under the federal law called posse comitatus, our soldiers cannot make arrests. Now, if this had been the other way around, where the governor had ordered the National Guard to come in, it would have been a different story. The National Guard, under civilian authority, can make arrests, just as any law enforcement officer can. Now, some of these National Guard troops are also police on their day job. These National Guard troops who are police on their day job still cannot make the arrests unless they get pelted. Once they are pelted, it turns it into a different story. They can take that force which is reasonable and necessary to stop the assault. They can use that force which is reasonable and necessary to stop the assault, and they will. All other law enforcement can do the same. They can use that force which is reasonable and necessary. Those are the legal words, reasonable and necessary. But they cannot cross that line. They cannot cross that line. Great questions. Any other questions? Renee Steffi says these Democrat governors need to be held accountable for the riots. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Newsom could have had this contained a long time ago. But he's in the position where he wants to run for president. He's going to use this method of action against President Trump. Oh, you came in with the military. Oh, you did this, you did that. Your DEA, your ICE came in and arrested people. Yes, Newsom's going to do that 4 years. But by then, there may be enough evidence to put Newsom in jail, to arrest Mayor Bass and the other city council in Los Angeles. Mayor Bass should have been in jail already over the LA fires. I believe Mayor Bass may have also been in collusion with crooks, bad guys that set those fires. Kathy Marshall's asking what happens under martial law. We're 20 miles from Manhattan, New York City. Let me explain martial law. When they want to take control of these protesters, when they want to stop the riots, they will order martial law where nobody can get out of their homes. Nobody can leave their homes, and if they do, they will be arrested. If they're seen outside protesting or outside trying to interfere with what the Customs Border Protection is doing, what Immigration Customs Enforcement is doing, the DEA, the FBI, they will be arrested. The place will be locked down. Now, this probably will not last long. That will only be a temporary measure, but it could happen. Right now, President Trump is saying no to that, but it could come under that. It could come to that. Great question. Thank you for that. Now, Shirley is saying, yes, they do, and refund the citizens for all reconstruction expenses to rebuild the damaged infrastructure. That may happen too. Once they prosecute these individuals, like the reporters were saying, the city police, LAPD, the LA Sheriff's Office have those traffic cameras. They have other cameras situated around these bridges as well. They have pictures of these people. All they have to do is run these pictures through a database. If these people have ever been arrested for anything else, or if these people have been involved in protests before or any other lawful or unlawful action, they can and will be processed, and the police will go out there and they'll be arrested. They might not be arrested tonight, but they will be arrested at some point in time. Tinny Pearl says, go live press conference by LA Police. It's on now. Let's go over here and see what we can see from KCAL.
We've said this over and over again, and I can't stress it enough for the people in our community who have high levels of anxiety about this issue, that we want everybody to believe and be able to call the LAPD in time of need if they've been a victim of a crime or a witness to a crime. We need that. Otherwise, the system does not work. That has been our policy and remains our policy, and it went into effect in 1979. So 46 years ago, that's been the way we do business. On the other hand, however, when a law enforcement agency, any agency, requests emergency assistance to protect lives, we are obligated to respond, and we do. Public safety is our duty, and we will answer every legitimate call for help from anyone. We recognize that immigration enforcement operations can cause a deep fear and anxiety, particularly in immigrant communities. That's why we're committed to transparency, accountability, and treating every Angelino with respect, regardless of their immigration status. Our job is not to divide communities or politicize law enforcement. Our job is simply to keep everyone safe. I want to express my sincere appreciation to all of our officers and partner agencies for their dedication and professionalism during these very challenging times. Their commitment to upholding the law, even in the face of hostility, is a reflection of the values that we stand for. We're working together to keep everyone safe, our officers and the public alike, and this remains our top priority. We'll continue to support peaceful protests and enforce the law when criminal acts occur. The LAPD remains focused on its core mission to protect lives, safeguard constitutional rights, and serve every neighborhood in Los Angeles with integrity. Let me open it up now for any questions you might have or any points that we can clarify.
Chief, the governor made a very strong statement that he didn't believe the Trump administration needed to activate those National Guard troops and take control of those National Guard troops in some of the areas because he felt we had adequate safety protections officers here. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I don't know what basis they used to make that decision, but if that was based on our what I delineated here about the the perceived lack of response to a help call by an outside agency, that did not happen. We did respond with mobile field force configuration. And just to explain that, a mobile field force is a configuration of people or officers within the organization that we bring in from around the city. We declare a tactical alert so we can break them away from their primary duties of answering radio calls to be able to come in, form up. They're trained in this tactic into a configuration of 4 squads or a platoon that are led by a mobile field force leader. They then go 4 deep in the car and they drive into the impacted area, and that way they can safely go in a large group of officers and able to handle whatever they come across. If we were to send in a single unit or a couple of units into a riotous scene, certainly they'd be surrounded and the outcome would probably not be good. And so this is a configuration that has worked for us, developed here, worked for us for many years, but it doesn't happen instantaneously. So we have to call in units. We have to meet at a certain location. They get the information they need to operate in the environment, and then they go and they take care of business. And so that takes a little bit of time. For us to be able to get in there in about 35 minutes is pretty much textbook. So while we'd love to be able to say we can get there in seconds or minutes, in the reality of a situation of civil unrest, we got to do it right. We got to do it safely for everybody involved.
Hold on. Go one at a time, please, and let's identify name and outlet.
Victor with Univision. Chief, we have seen 2 kinds of groups, at least from Friday, Saturday, and today that have been working. The community that is enraged and they're not happy with the actions of ICE, and then the community that loots and attacks and destroys our city. What would be your direct message to both groups? Yeah, to the people who are not happy with the fact that ICE is in the community doing what ICE does, you know, I respect ICE for being a fellow law enforcement agency. They have their mission. They have their what they have to do. We don't engage in that activity, but again, we can't preclude them from doing that. They have every right to do that. I ask people in the community to trust the LAPD, that we're not there for that purpose, and that if they have something they need us to be able to address, we're there for them. As far as the big picture of what can I recommend they do or not do, that's something it's a federal issue, and the federal authorities have the right to be able to do what they're doing. As far as people worried about the violence that we're seeing, this violence that I've seen is disgusting. It's escalated now since the beginning of this incident. What we saw the first night was bad. What we've seen subsequent to that is getting increasingly worse and more violent. Tonight we had individuals out there shooting commercial-grade fireworks at our officers. That can kill you. And we have adapted our tactics to be able to have a chance to be able to take these people into custody and to be able to hold them accountable. We are overwhelmed as far as the number of people out there engaged in this type of activity and the type of things that they're doing. They'll take backpacks, and the backpack will have a cinder block in it. They have a hammer, and they'll break up the cinder block and use that, pass it around to throw at officers, to throw at cars, and throw at other people. We've seen people with hammers, and you've broadcasted, breaking the bollards behind the federal building and taking the rocks, if you will, or pieces of concrete, and throwing them at officers. We've had liquid of who knows what description thrown at officers. There's no limit to what they're doing to our officers. And again, as I mentioned in my statement, I can't thank our folks enough and our partner agency police officials for going out there and taking care of the community and trying to be able to put themselves between the threat and the overall community. And they do this night in and night out. And in these past couple of nights, we've seen it at a level that I think disgusts every good person. Thank you, sir.
You just described some pretty violent and chaotic situations. What is your position on the National Guard being deployed? Do we need them here? Well,
you know, it's an interesting question, because I would have said that, you know, we we could handle this. I believe that we would have gone through a number of steps before we'd have deployed the National Guard or requested deployment of the National Guard. We would normally go to 50% deployment to handle radio calls and do the business of policing, and everybody else would be focused on the initial problem. Beyond that, then we would request through the sheriff mutual aid, and that would bring in members of the 44 other police departments in LA County as well as the sheriff's office. And so that didn't occur in this case because it wasn't done through the sheriff or through the up through the normal chain. It was done from the top down, from the president directing that happened, and then the National Guard was federalized. So they're working for the U.S. Army, not for the California State National Guard. Do we need them? Well, looking at it tonight, this thing has gotten out of control. Before I could answer that, I'd have to know more about what their capabilities are, what their role is intended to be able to make that determination. But we have great cops in Southern California here that work together all the time. So we have tremendous capability here. To say that we would go to that right away, I'd say we wouldn't have been there yet.
Okay, I don't believe that. That LAPD commander that's giving this news conference knows darn well what the National Guard is capable of. He knows. For him to say that he doesn't think it's necessary or he doesn't know what the capability is, he's lying to the public.
Looking at the violence tonight,
he's actually covering his butt because otherwise LA Mayor Karen Bass could have him fired. So I think he's probably covering his butt.
I think we got to make a reassessment.
Laurel, how has your department interacted with the National Guard, if at all, since they've been here?
I'd say very little, other than we had a conference call this afternoon. There aren't a whole lot of soldiers in place at this time. They're still incoming. But the people who are here, they're tremendous Americans here trying to do, they provide their service, doing the task that they're charged with. Our relationship has been tremendous overall with the National Guard. We worked right alongside them for 5 months during the Palisades fire. They were there every day in the beginning in large numbers, and then that narrowed down before they demobilized. But the relationship is overall tremendous. We're very, very good partners with them, and I hope they feel the same about us.
And when you look at the demonstrators who are people from the community who are upset about, the immigration raids, families being broken up, deportations happening, do you feel any sense of kinship with them, or about this situation, or do you see that there is need for more law enforcement and for more immigration enforcement in Los Angeles?
I think, the federal agents are enforcing federal immigration law, which is their right, and anybody can have their personal opinion on to what level that should be, who should they focus on, and those kind of things. I won't take a position on that because really that's not our focus, not our job. But when I look at the people who are out there doing the violence, that's not the people that we see during the day who are legitimately out there exercising their First Amendment rights and to be able to express their feelings about the immigration enforcement issue. These are people who are all hooded up. They've got a hoodie on. They've got face masks on. They're people who do this all the time, get away with whatever they can, go out there, from one civil unrest situation to another, using the same or similar tactics frequently, and they are connected. Some would call them anarchists or by any other variety of names, but they're people that we run across routinely city to city, and this is what they do. So even more disgusting that many of the people who are doing this come in from other places just to hurt people and to cause havoc.
Chief, let's go next to Toledo over here.
Okay.
Look at the fireworks that are being thrown at the police.
Do you think that the presence of National Guard increased the level to this kind of situation? I mean, you said that it's disgusting. Do you think that if you control it without them, it could be a different situation?
I don't know. That's a very interesting question. what was the catalyst for us seeing the second and third day of this becoming increasingly more violent. To be able to say it's because of the National Guard, I can't, because there aren't enough on the ground at this point to make a difference. I've seen civil unrest a number of times before, and generally the second and third days are more violent than the initial phase. And so this is not much different from that pattern, but certainly I think there's a number of things that cause people to come out. Much of it is they watch this and see it on TV, social media, whatever social media outlets they follow, or asking them or telling them to come down and be part of this, and they do that. And they come out here, and many come out and just want to see what's going on. They're out there with their cameras, but they're putting themselves in harm's way and potentially setting themselves up for a criminal future. When you look at some of the things that are happening here, somebody could easily be killed. And if you're part of that, then you're going to be facing those charges as well. I talked to the DA just a couple of minutes ago, and the DA will file felony charges on individuals where it's appropriate, but won't be shy about doing that where it is appropriate. And also the potential for federal charges, given the type of environment we're in. And, you know, the federal authorities don't play. And so as we move forward, I think people will be surprised in some cases for what happens to their future.
Right, let's go 2 more questions. Anybody that hasn't asked already, go ahead. Thank you.
Lindsay Pena, KTLA. Given the amount of officers that are here in downtown LA, how does that affect response times in other parts of the city and the safety of people that are not downtown?
Yeah. Thank you for that question. A great question. It was, how does the deployment of so many officers downtown or in any one part of the city affect our ability to provide police services citywide? It greatly impacts our ability because it pulls officers who would normally deployed in communities around the city of Los Angeles into one area in order to be able to address the threat that we're facing. And so other areas, when we go on tactical alert, that means we only handle radio calls of significant importance, meaning a violent crime in progress, calls that have to be answered right away. So the other calls get put on a queue and may not get handled for some time to come, and they're important to everyone who is a victim of any kind of a crime. And so when we go to tactical alert, we don't do it lightly, but in this case we did it very quickly because we needed additional resources right away to be able to help quell the violence. And that situation, as you can see tonight, has only gotten worse.
Chief, given what you said about not being informed so you could pre-stage for the incident that started this thing, and you said, I believe, that you spoke with the ICE director as well as other city officials today. Is there any effort being made for ICE to share information about what their next move?
Yeah, that's something that we did talk about, and there's no resolution to that. And the problem is that we are guided and bound by the California Values Act, which means that we can't participate in any way in civil immigration enforcement. So the federal partners have been reticent to provide information to us before something happens because of that reason. Part of that is they want to be respectful of the rules that we have to live by, but it also, on a normal situation, not that big a deal, but in a situation like we saw here in the past couple of days, it turns out to be a very big deal. So we're going to continue to work with the partners that I mentioned and many others as we go forward to try and be able to make things as safe for everybody as we can.
All right, Spectrum.
Chief, how many arrests so far?
Yes, Captain Raul Javel, Operations Central Bureau, Incident Commander. At least, this is very fluid and preliminary, at least 10 people arrested so far. There's arrests being made as we speak. About 3 officers injured. Fortunately, very fortunate, on very minor injuries, or I wouldn't say not minor, but they're not significant enough to be transported to a local hospital. They were treated at the scene. But we're making more arrests as we speak, and we're trying to get into that posture where we're able to make arrests. Right now, really, our officers are really under attack. If you can see when the chief was talking about, we're trying to, first of all, ensure that our officers are safe and the public is safe, and then we'll move into if we can arrest, we'll arrest, and then obviously protect the property and our vehicles and other things like that. But as of now, 10 arrests.
And if I could just jump on, and then 29 last night as well. And so as we move forward, we will step up our arrest posture in order to hold people accountable and do what we can to stop this violence.
We're going to go 2 more questions.
Really quick, she asked the question I have real quick. How long can we expect for this situation to happen?
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
How long do you think this situation is going to be?
Yeah, for me, again, that would be speculative to say how long that the members of ICE will be in town doing the enforcement actions they're doing. But by calling out the National Guard, oftentimes their deployment periods are in 30-day periods. And so, to me, it's going to be an extended period of time. I don't know how long that'll be. We're gearing up for that to be able to participate in a meaningful way as we move forward without exhausting our people beyond what they already are. We're a department that went through 5 months plus of the fires and dealing with the fallout from the fires. And as you can imagine, with a very limited sized department to begin with, that's a big stress on our deployment, but more so on our people and their.
Okay, let me interrupt this right now. He just said something that's significant. He said the Army National Guard can't come in very fast. Yes, they can. Last night is when President Trump ordered the National Guard in. The National Guard can respond within 4 hours. The National Guard can respond within 4 hours, and the KCAL helicopter showed you National Guard vehicles parked in that parking tower. So again, this commander from LAPD is lying to the public.
Families. So as we move forward, we'll do everything we can to focus on employee wellness and to be able to offer whatever services we can to address the needs of our folks.
Sure. We'll go one more back there because he hasn't asked yet, and so Carmen, go ahead, and then one more, and then we're gonna call it.
So just two questions. One, is there a chance of instituting a curfew? And two, will you be going back and re-looking at any of these incidents that maybe there wasn't enough?
Look at that, guys. There's another fire. The protesters have lit another fire.
To make an arrest at a time, but going back and trying to investigate who's responsible and potentially arresting after that.
No, thank you for the question. I spoke with the sheriff today, and we discussed the possibility of implementing a curfew. We don't rush into doing that, but if we need to do that, I'll go back with the sheriff, and we'll look at the options as far as that goes. And as far as give me the second part of the question again.
For some of these incidents we watch unfold, a lot of people watch
I got you.
things just unfold in real time.
Yeah.
Thinking, are any of these people going to be held accountable for this, for the cars on fire and things like that? Is there a chance of going back?
Absolutely. When you look at the numbers of arrests we've made, pale in comparison to what will be made. There are video accounts of what happened everywhere on social media, on individuals, cameras, iPhones. We will go after that very aggressively. Go after the all available video, analyze that video, and hold whoever we can accountable for the variety of different types of crimes that have been committed. And that's something we'll do with a number of different partners with levels of expertise that may be beyond what we have. No, thank you for that.
Tell me on what charges people were arrested yesterday and today.
Do you have the specifics? Yeah.
So yesterday, the 29 folks were for failure to disperse. They were all arrested today. So today, so far, this is very preliminary because there's so much stuff going on. The stuff that we know is one person was arrested for throwing a Molotov cocktail at an officer, a significant incident, and then another individual for ramming a motorcycle into one of our line where the officers were and injured one of the officers. Everything else is still very fluid, and I won't have that for a while.
Was anyone arrested on the freeway or related to the freeway?
So CHP has made at least 17 arrests that I'm aware of in the freeway.
All right, thank you, everyone. Commander Hurtado will stick around to do comments in Spanish for anybody who's interested.
Okay, we're not going to take in the comments in Spanish or questions in Spanish. However, look at that fire. It's moving. Protesters again start another fire to get the police involved to try to protect people. The protesters are very smart. What's happening here? The people have been schooled on what is necessary to control the police. They know what's going to control the police, and they know how to do it. They start fires or make other disruptions to get control of the police, and then something else happens. I believe that's exactly what we see here, another fire. This is exactly what they do.
Okay, you just heard from LAPD Chief Jim McDonald, along with several other superiors from LAPD, telling us they've made a significant amount of arrests, 10 arrests today, 29 arrests last night. CHP made 17 arrests on the 101 freeway today when some of the demonstrators got on the freeway, shut it down. We know 3 officers have been injured. They said, fortunately, just minor injuries after at least one incident of a motorcycle ramming into an officer, and then someone else threw a Molotov cocktail at an officer. The chief called the violence happening disgusting, and that he believes it feels like it has escalated in the last few days.
And just in the last few minutes, as you're taking a live look from SkyCal right now, you've noticed a group of protesters and people out there starting that fire that you see in the middle of your screen. And of course, that's another layer of concern, of danger, not to mention traffic all the way around. But we do know that we have on the line Congresswoman Norma Torres. Can you hear us? I want to make sure that we can hear and see you correctly.
Okay, we're going to work on getting Congresswoman Norma Torres up here. But Mike, in the meantime, you've been monitoring this situation to the left, that fire, but also you noticed what happened earlier with the mountain unit.
Yeah, you know, we're looking on the right side of your screen here. As the mountain unit was going through, somebody threw a Molotov cocktail at the mountain unit there, and there was multiples of that happening. I was listening to the radio traffic where trees were on fire as a result of it, or they're trying to start trees on fire, and these horses, you can see them walking right through it. And then you'll watch on the right side of your screen, when this is earlier, when they tried to make an arrest, or they did facilitate an arrest there. Looks like the tape ended there. But, you know, one thing I wanted to point out, too, those horses have just been through it tonight. And you see on the front of their faces, they've got a shield, just like the officers do, to try to protect their eyes from everything that's going on. The fire you're looking at here is at First and Spring, right outside police headquarters, where Chief Jim McDonald was talking about. And I wanted to bring up something that the chief spoke about, and that was the response time. Saturday morning, ICE put out a statement saying that on Friday, LAPD took 2 hours to respond to their request from help. And that was a written statement from ICE officials. The chief flat out denying that, saying it took 38 minutes for them to respond, and there was extenuating circumstances for even why it took that long. The chief explaining they had no prior knowledge, they were not ready to set up and be there for this. They say traffic was an issue, crowd was an issue, tear gas that the feds had been using became an issue as well. And then he went in and explained the mobile field forces is where, when they're not ready, because mobile field forces are designed for incidents that pop up.
Energy dominance is a tug of war, and China
when they're more prepared for a situation, but a field force is when they get a group of officers together and try to deploy them, and that's what we saw on Friday night. But the chief saying, anybody that says it took 2 hours for us to respond, that is blatantly not true. They were not prepared for ICE's interactions because ICE didn't tell them that they were coming, and in fact, he says it took them 38 minutes to respond.
Yeah, and before we continue on with talking about what the chief had to say, I want to check with our producer. Do we have Congresswoman Norma Torres on the line just yet? Okay. Congresswoman, can you hear us?
Looks like we're still working on setting that up, but we do want to make a note here as we continue to work on the connection and establishing things for this evening, that this large group of protesters, it looked like the map was up ever so briefly, and it looked like they were coming down Spring and just past 2nd Street, and that fire that we were making a point to show you earlier was on 1st in Spring. So they're making their way down. It obviously a little hard to tell now in terms of where they are in relation to other officers or other law enforcement, but they are making their way down Spring Street right now. Not exactly sure where they're going, but that fire you see just at the top of your screen, so that's where they're coming down right now. And we don't know exactly where they're going or what they're going to do next, but that crowd is moving along the street right now.
Is that the federal building, federal detention center they're walking by right now? I could be wrong here.
On Spring.
We want to get our bearings a little bit.
Yeah. I think, John, is that where they're walking towards? So let's see, Spring and 2nd is right there. No, they're headed south, he says.
Oh, okay.
Okay, just so you know, they were just mentioning these people are walking down here, and there are police behind them, and there are police in front of them. They're trying to guide these people to a safe place where they're not going to get hurt. As you can see, darkness has come upon the city of LA. Police are going to do their best to make sure people are not hurt. But on the same token, the police are not going to take any crap from anyone. Yes, there were discrepancies on how fast that LAPD came down there. Law enforcement agencies usually get a faster response. Now, there are some questions around how fast they got there once they were called. This is going to exacerbate the situation. Now, I'm going to put this audio back up here for a few more minutes and let us see what this Congresswoman has to say. After that, we'll be leaving the air. So please stay here with us.
We are going to try to figure out where this group is walking. It's rather dark, much darker in this area as they're getting away from Civic Center, part of downtown LA. But it doesn't look like, law enforcement has been staged over here. So you wonder if this crowd is just going to slowly disperse, start to go home, or if they're going to continue to walk directly in the middle of the street. And that, of course, could be an issue.
Especially as we start getting into this, we've been leading up to this moment and drawing attention to it, the fact that we're getting into the darkness now. The sun is set. It's it's harder to see. It's harder to make out where exactly everybody is. The crowd has thinned out significantly, but you do still have pockets of people going back and forth, and we're going to continue to monitor the situation. Let's try one more time here with Congresswoman Norma Torres. Do you hear us, Congresswoman, and see us? We see you.
Yes, I can hear you and see you.
Perfect. Thank you so much for giving us some time this evening. We really appreciate it. First off, as you've been keeping an eye on everything that's been going on, what has been your reaction to the developments of today, especially in the last few hours?
It's really troubling to see what is happening in the streets of Los Angeles. What should be massive number of people peacefully demonstrating has been taken over by groups that don't really care about nonviolent demonstrations. And this is what we don't need, because this is the message that Donald Trump, the person instigating these attacks on our communities by in the form of ICE agents armed to the teeth and covering their faces, they started this, and now these groups are responding. And unfortunately, we cannot afford to continue to have these groups attacking, whether it is ICE agents that we're so upset with, or certainly not the local law enforcement that are trying to keep the peace, that are trying to maintain control. Right now, we need people to stay cool and to push back against any efforts of any aggressors trying to take over the peaceful demonstrations.
Okay. She's also trying to instigate here. She wants to put the blame on President Trump. President Trump was asked to do something. He was asked by the majority of Americans to do something, and he's doing just that. She's also blaming ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, and Customs Border Patrol. Guess what? They're doing what they were asked to do. This Congresswoman is obviously a Democrat communist. This Congresswoman is a Democrat communist, and she's going to disperse hateful rhetoric.
Okay, we want to get to a clip from yesterday where you and other representatives tried to make it inside that federal detention center, but were denied access. Let's go ahead and see that clip.
We need to have information as to what occurred yesterday, and we need to do our oversight. This is federal law under appropriations bill that was passed 2 years ago.
It's Public Law 11847, Title 5.
Okay, and that is the moment you and Representative Jimmy Gomez also tried to get in, but were denied access. Congresswoman, I want to bring you back here. Can you walk me through what happened and why you guys were denied access, and if there's been any progress since then?
There hasn't been any progress since then. We arrived there at 8 o'clock, and I specifically drove around the perimeter, the 6-block perimeter, between 8 a.m. and 8:30 a.m., and there wasn't a single demonstrator there. We gathered there 4 members of Congress, our staff, several attorneys, and 2 organizations with about 8 or 10 staff members from their organization. So there wasn't a big group of people. As soon as I arrived to the building at 8:30 a.m., I began communicating with the congressional liaison. And I told her that we wanted to be invited in. We wanted to get a briefing as to the violent engagement that ICE agents had with peaceful protesters in the community the day prior. And that congressional liaison told me to stand by, and that she was running up to her office and she would get back to me as soon as she got the approval. Some time went by. Because she did not respond to me, I asked the other members of Congress that were present to also call her office, and we began this process of contacting everyone we knew in that office to allow us entry. And at some point, one of our members was told to go to that side office where you hear us speaking to security on the other side of that door through a video camera and a speaker. We were inside there for a while. They were trying to get approval to let us in. We clarified that it was only 4 members of Congress that wanted it to be allowed inside and to receive a briefing. So I don't know why the director is lying, saying that there were 1,000 people protesting outside. Certainly, if there would have been 1,000 people protesting, I would have heard them, I would have seen them, and certainly all of the press. There were more reporters, by the way, present, and there were more cameras than members of Congress and the attorneys and the 2 organizations combined. So for them to say that there were, 1,000 people surrounding the building, that is incorrect information. And if that is the lie that they are utilizing to justify the chemical attack against us, they deployed, by the way, twice a chemical agent that ultimately sent me to the hospital for 4 hours to get oxygen treatment and a new inhaler and other medications that now I need to take.
Wow. Congresswoman Norma Torres.
Okay, what she got pepper spray. The normal process for that for anyone is to make sure they get hospital treatment, medical treatment for whatever ails them, including possible inhalers. Their system is enriched with that potential chemical. And as a result, she received oxygen treatment. That's normal. Anybody that is pepper sprayed has that right to that medical attention. As a police officer, I was told that if I applied chemical pepper spray or what they call CS gas, I was to make sure those people got medical attention immediately. I had to call an ambulance. Okay? In this case, they're deploying pepper spray and chemical weapons against these protesters. And as a result, you cannot offer medical attention to a large enough group like this. They have to pursue medical attention themselves.
Thank you so much for giving us a few minutes of your time this evening.
Thank you.
All right, on that note, let's check back in with our very own Lori Perez.
Okay, Elaine is saying here in the chat, the press reported 600 people outside the courthouse. So she again is lying. She said there was nobody there. The press said there was at least 600 people. So that again, that Congresswoman is lying, just like those other Congresspeople that tried to gain access to that New Jersey holding facility there. They lied through their teeth. Yes, they later did get access to that holding facility, but they lied through their teeth. And a Congresswoman is going to face federal charges for pushing and assaulting a federal police officer. Now, just a little while ago, Arnold Smith was here in the chat, and he was telling us about an explosion at Kadena Air Base in Japan on Okinawa. This comes out of Reuters, Tokyo. An explosion occurred at an ammunition storage area inside the U.S. military's Kadena Air Base in Okinawa, southern Japan, on Monday, Japan time. There was a report of an unknown number of injuries with that explosion. Public broadcaster NHK, which is a news broadcaster in Japan, said that the facility belonged to Japan's self-defense forces and was used to temporarily store unexploded ammunition. That's the story we have out of Japan in regards to Kadena Air Force Base over in Japan on Okinawa. Do we have any questions about anything? I want to make sure we have everything in tow here. Charlene's going to bed. I'm going to say goodnight to you all in just a minute. I want to make sure we've answered everybody's questions here. Again, this broadcast was brought to you by the simple fact that we have immigration raid protests here in Los Angeles and over in New York as well. These protesters don't even know what they're protesting. They're throwing Molotov cocktails at the police. These are LA police. These are not Immigration Customs Enforcement agents. They're not Border Patrol agents. They're not DEA agents. They're not FBI. These are LAPD. They don't even realize what they're protesting. They're protesting to cause problems in Los Angeles. That's all they're doing here. Okay? Do we have any questions here? Alan C., thank you also for being here. We'd love to have you here. We have 78 people watching our program right now. I consider that a good deal. We may have had many more before that. I want to thank you for being here. If you want to help, if you've enjoyed this program and want to help support this program, I also want you to do something else. I want, just below on the bottom of your screen, you see our PayPal and Venmo locations here where you can help support this program by going on to our PayPal locations and providing a subsistence to keep this program on the air. You see our email address here. All that information is also down below in the program description of this program tonight. You also see our address here, 504 Bethel Road, Box 401, Morganton, North Carolina. Morganton spelled Morganton, North Carolina. The zip code here is 28655. You can send us cards and letters, and you can insert a check or even cash inside that card and letter. We'd appreciate that. Don Patoka says, thanks to Ron. We appreciate that as well. I want to thank also our mods here. We have the greatest mods in YouTube. We do have the greatest mods in YouTube, and I want them to know how much we love and appreciate them. We will be coming back on the air probably tomorrow to give you an update what's going on. At 6 p.m. tomorrow night, sometime after 6 p.m. tomorrow night, we'll be back on the air with our normal program called Emergency Management Associates, where we're going to give you an update on earthquakes, update on the volcanoes, and yes, we have some updates to give you. I want to thank you all for being here. God bless you. God be with you until we meet again. We'll see